American patriots, are you a supporter of the Second Amendment? Are you a responsible gun owner? If so, then you know the day will come that you're going to need a trusted and qualified gunsmith. When that day arrives, I want you to contact the man that I trust with my weapons, Mr. Delaney Jackson, owner of Jumpin, Gunsmith, and Appraisal. Besides being a professional gunsmith, Delaney is a true American patriot. And, a little trivia for you, he's also the manager and guitar player for country music legend Mr. Mark Chestnut. So when the time arrives, take your weapons to the man who treats my weapons like they're his own, my trusted friend, Mr. Delaney Jackson at Jumpin, Gunsmith, and Appraisal. Contact information and website information is in the description of this video below. Thank you and God bless.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, but you chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. As you all know, last week I took off. I had to go out of town to attend not one, but three separate funerals. Good friend of mine that I grew up with, his son passed away. Also, we had a police officer that passed away. And another friend of mine that I used to skydive with lost his life. So last week was very trying. It was very emotional. And it's behind us now. To all those that have lost a loved one for any reason, know that you're in our thoughts and prayers. It was a difficult time, but we're getting through it. And with the support of their friends and family, they will too in the long run. I hope and I pray. A lot of things happened last week that I wish I could have been talking about, but was it? So we will start with what's currently happening. And we're going to start with something that is very disturbing. It's something that I don't like to talk about because it's very mixed emotions and it divides us as a country, worse than Brandon does, by the way. And it's something that the Democrats tried to do, but thank God they failed at it. And it's sickening. When I share this with you, you will see exactly how sickening this is. Senate Democrats are facing pushback after they voted last week in favor of a bill that would legalize abortion nationwide for all 9 months of pregnancy. I'll repeat that. You can abort as soon as you find out you're pregnant, or you can wait until the day you're supposed to deliver 9 months later and kill that baby. I don't care where you stand on this issue, but that's sickening. And then I'm sure you've all seen by now some of the abortion protesters that are out there that believe in abortion. You know, there's one girl that I hope, well, I know for a fact her face is going to be well known across all of the world because she's not wearing a mask or anything else, but she's holding up a sign at a rally that says fetuses are like snacks, as if eating them. I bet our parents are very, very proud. Disgusting human being to say for participating something of that nature. The Women's Health Protection Act, which received support from 49 Democrats in the Senate, but ultimately it failed to succeed, would have given healthcare providers the right to provide abortion services with few limitations or requirements. According to the measure's text, healthcare providers would have been allowed to perform abortions without prohibition on abortion at any point or points in time prior to fetal viability, or a requirement that a patient seeking abortion services at any point or points in time prior to fetal viability disclose the patient's reason or reasons for seeking abortion services. The legislation would have also given way for the providers to perform the procedure without a prohibition of abortion after fetal vitality when, in good faith, medical judgment of the treating healthcare provider, continuation of the pregnancy would pose a risk to the pregnant patient's life or health. And for that, okay, I get that. But that's not what we were trying to sneak in there, was it? No. Additionally, the bill states, and interpret the provisions of the act, a court shall literally construe such provisions to affect the purpose of the act. When Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat, Connecticut, introduced the measure earlier this month, he assured reporters during a press conference that the patient's health includes psychological and emotional health similar to that offered in Doe versus Bolton, a companion case to Roe versus Wade. Pro-choice Republican Senators Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska concluded the measure undermines the Religious Freedom Restoration Act by removing protections for religious liberties. This override would be unprecedented, according to Collins' office, given that Congress has never before adopted legislation that contains an exemption to this religious liberty law. Contrary to claims from Senate Democrats, leaders that their bill would have not infringed upon the religious rights of individuals and religious institutions, the WHPA especially invalidates the Religious Freedom Restoration Act in connection with abortion and supersedes other longstanding bipartisan laws, including provisions in the Affordable Care Act that protect healthcare providers who choose not to offer abortion services for moral or religious reasons, Collins said in a statement. Collins' office also noted that the bill's overly broad language far exceeds Roe by striking down state laws such as those that require certain materials to be given to the patient, prohibit sex-based abortions, or require prenatal or guardian notification for minors seeking abortion. Now, a recent poll from the Pew Research Center revealed that only 19% of Americans believe abortion in the third trimester should be legal in all cases. And of course, those would be the liberal, young, white children that are out there protesting right now. Additionally, a 2019 Maersk poll found that 75% of Americans strongly support some restrictions on abortion. In a statement to Fox News Digital, Democrats for Life spokesperson Jess Meath offered appreciation for Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, West Virginia, the only Democrat senator to vote against the measure, and concluded that it's radical legislation that goes beyond Roe. We are disappointed in Senator Bob Casey and his claims to be a pro-life Democrat by turning his back on women and their pre-born children by supporting the WHPA, Meath added, taking aim at the Pennsylvania Democrat who ran his 2006 campaign for Senate for being a pro-life and pro-gun person. It is deeply out of step to not give women real resources and real support during and after their pregnancies, Meath said. There are 21 million pro-life Democrats who do not agree with the party's platform and position on abortion. As Democrats, we must protect all human life and dignity. and this includes the most vulnerable in the womb. Meath also touted a movement of pro-life Democrats rising who recognize the need of regulation and limits around abortion, and applauded efforts from Connecticut State Representative Cheree McGee, a Black woman and pro-life Democrat, who inspired 13 fellow Democrats, including those in minority groups in the State House and Senate, to oppose a measure in a state that expanded access under these conditions. Despite what some Republican senators and pro-life Democrats had to say about the measure, Nora Keefe, a spokesperson for the Democrat Senatorial Campaign Committee, told Fox News Digital that Republicans are panicking as a result of their agenda in issuing false claims about the measure. Republicans are panicking because they know their agenda to take away a woman's right to make their own decision is deeply out of step with Americans of every political persuasion, Keefe said. I don't know what fucking planet she's on, but it ain't this one. Their false claims about the Women's Health Protection Act will not distract voters from their plan to criminalize abortion everywhere and inflict new punishing restrictions on women and families. When comparing U.S. laws to the rest of the world, the Washington Post found that many European countries limited on request abortions to the first trimester, more restrictive than much of the United States. And the United States is one of fewer than a dozen countries that allow abortion after 20 weeks of pregnancy on any grounds. Former Planned Parenthood clinic director Abby Johnson, a pro-life activist, also took aim at the bill, telling Fox News Digital that those who voted for the measure are delusional. The DSCC and senators who voted to allow abortion for any reason at any point in the pregnancy are delusional, Johnson said. Americans do not support radical abortion on demand, especially after the first trimester. Any abortion is horrific, but abortions done in the second and third trimesters are downright cruel and brutal as the baby is ripped apart limb by limb, or sometimes born alive and left to die if drugs to stop the baby's heart do not work. Most Americans have never worked in an abortion clinic, she said. They have not seen this kind of destruction of human life up close. I have. It's a burden for all of us who have. It's not only the images of the discarded babies that are forever ingrained in our minds, but the faces of women who we saw crumbled when brought into the recovery room facing the realization of what they just witnessed. Johnson said the biggest lie women have been told is that they need abortion to achieve their dream or have the career they want or to obtain higher education. They don't need to end the life of their unborn baby to do any of this. There are so many people and organizations that are available to help them. They need support, not the abortion industry telling them lies in order to increase their bottom line, because really that's what it's all about for abortion clinics. The dignity of women and their babies is not even on their radar. Women deserve better than abortion. They deserve better than the disgenerous named Women's Protection Act, which only gives license to the abortion industry to further unleash horrors of abortion in our nation. Now, all that being said, let me give you my personal belief. To all you Democrats out there that think this is okay, to 6 months into the pregnancy or 8 months into the pregnancy or the day before you're to give birth, 9 months into it, the day you're supposed to give live birth to a healthy child, to tell your doctor, nah, I changed my mind. To all you that feel that Roe versus Wade is going to limit your ability to get abortion, you're fucking clueless. And it's time you wake up and realize what the facts are here. Let's say that Roe versus Wade is overturned by the Supreme Court. It does not. I repeat, it does not make abortion illegal, you dumb fucks. It just kicks the choice back to the states, which means that if you live in a blue state, you're going to be able to get an abortion all the way up to the day you're supposed to deliver a healthy baby. If you live in a red state, you're not going to be able to do that. If you live in a red state and would like an abortion, all you need to do is walk, drive, fly, take a train, bus, Uber, or taxi to a blue state, and your wish to kill a baby will be granted. Does that make any sense? Do you get that shit? This is not about women's health rights. It's about the dignity of life being taken away. It's about the American taxpayer not having to pay for your bad choices for not using birth control. Period. Why does one group of people believe others should be held responsible for their bad decisions? Such as, I don't know, let's see, college loan debt comes to mind. Take responsibility for your actions. Own your actions. And stop kicking it back to those of us that see you for what you really are, which is evil, selfish, and an incompetent human being. And then go to your mom and say, thank you for not aborting me, because obviously you're happy as all a pig in shit for your beliefs, which are outright pathetic. Speaking of things that are pathetic, excuse me a second. A recent Politico piece reported that Joe Biden is finally rethinking efforts to reach across the aisle and work with the Republican lawmakers because of their obstructionism. On Sunday, Politico's John Lamar began his piece declaring the fever didn't break. And for the Biden White House, efforts at bipartisanship had finally taken a back seat. Apparently, Biden has been trying hard for bipartisanship, so much so that Democrats have been annoyed. To the frustration of many Democrats and some of his closest advisors, Lamar continued, Joe Biden has steadfast spent more than a year in office insisting on trying to work across the aisle with Republicans. Lamar assists that Biden's effort for government unity have produced some notable legislative successes, but are also been colored by far dose of in-your-face GOP obstructionism. You know, that's how the political system works in America. That's how it works. It's called checks and balances. That's how it's supposed to work. And that's what the Democrats do when Republicans are in office. And then when Democrats take back over and Republicans are left to get screwed, you know, it doesn't matter. Now, more than a year later, Biden no longer believes that most Republicans will eventually drop their feet to Donald Trump and show a willingness to engage. He himself admitted he was wrong, Lamar said, claiming Republicans have revealed themselves to be too MAGA, or Biden's new focus group tested phrase, ultra MAGA. I guess I'm ultra MAGA because I want to make America great. Sue me. Too many Democrats, the omission was long overdue. Even some in Biden's orbit have been urging for a far more aggressive response, according to 4 White House officials and Democrats close to the White House, Lamar added. Much of the communication staff, including just departed press secretary Jen Pulaski, advised a more aggressive stance. Lamar also noted that Biden's wife urged him to get away from the bipartisanship. And First Lady Jill Biden told Confidence that she was urging her husband to be less scripted and more on the offensive. According to the author, Biden has also recently claimed he no longer recognizes the GOP. Kind of like what I said about the Democrat Party that I left proudly not too long ago, which he now views as an essential threat to the nation's democracy. Republicans and conservatives, we're now a threat to the nation. Lamar linked to his piece on Twitter with the words, "The fever didn't break." And for the White House, efforts at bipartisanship had finally taken a back seat to the frustration of some of his closest aides. Biden had insisted on trying to work with GOP, but it's now time to change course and attack. Critics on Twitter jumped on Lamar's tweet and article, wondering when Biden had ever put any effort into being bipartisan. That's a good question. When has he done that? GOP communications specialist Matt Whitlock tweeted that the idea that there was ever any real effort at bipartisanship by Biden is ridiculous. Legislatively, there's almost exclusive focus on what they could pass on a party line basis. ARP, Build Back Better, ending voter ID, or try by executive action student debt bailout. According to the media means, to offer those who disagree with the opportunity to support your legislation. If they don't, they're partisan, said Douglas Carr, founder of the Martech Zone. Others reminded everyone of some of Biden's most divisive lines as president. Vice President of Communications at Axron Strategies, Matt Wolk, wrote, 5 months ago, Biden was so bipartisan that he said if you oppose his totally partisan bill to take over elections nationwide, you're racist like George Wallace and Bull Connor and siding with the Confederacy. But now he will go on the attack, and that's changing course. Besides, Biden's comparing Republicans to Bull Connor, he can't even work with 2 senators from his own party, tweeted Chuck Ross, investigative reporter at the Washington Free Beacon. Radio host Jesse Kelly snarked, Mr. Pandemic of the unvaccinated is done being nice guy. In January, he compared Republicans to Bull Connor, George Wallace, and Jefferson Davis. But yeah, definitely just trying to get alone, tweeted T. Beck Adams, program director of the National Journalism Center. Now, what he's going to do is he's alienating his own base. Okay? Just be honest. Because I know a bunch of Democrats, a bunch, considering I used to be a Democrat, that they really don't recognize the Democrat Party anymore because it's been hijacked by the far left, literally. Moving right along. Yesterday, Joe Biden signed an order to deploy U.S. troops to Somalia, aimed at heightened concerns over the country's Islamic extremist rebels known as Al-Shabaab. The move is a reversal of President Trump's late-term decision to remove nearly 700 special operation forces that have been operating there. Biden's decision, confirmed by a senior administrative official, comes after Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin requested the deployment to reestablish a U.S. military presence in Somalia to enable a more effective fight against Al-Shabaab, which has increased in strength and poses a heightened threat. The official who requested autonomy to discuss the decision, or a decision that has not been formally announced, said American forces already in the region would be repositioned. U.S. military commanders have been deploying U.S. forces into Somalia for short rotations since Trump ordered American troops out during his final days in office in 2021. But Pentagon officials did not see that as an effective long-term strategy and had been considering recommending the redeployment for some time, according to the U.S. military official. Son of a bitch, does Afghanistan come to mind. So Trump pulled the forces out of Somalia. And then Biden pulled the forces out of Afghanistan. Then Biden put the forces back in Somalia. And then the Pentagon is admitting that this story's true. This goes against everything special forces and special operations stand for. They're called quiet professionals for a reason. You do not discuss at all what their plans are. You just don't do it. They go do their thing and they kill bad guys. Don't worry about where they're at doing it. Biden's decision to sign the order was first reported by the New York Times. Al-Shabaab, which has ties with Al-Qaeda, has made territory gains against Somalia federal government in recent months. You know who's next to speak up about this? Because that's where she's from. Be Alihan Omar. It's coming. It's coming. You heard it right here from Douglas Ducote. Watch for the tweets, especially after tonight's show. Reversing the gains of African Union peacekeepers who once had pushed the militants into remote areas of the country. Word of the deployment decision came after Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, who served as Somalia's president between 2012 and 2017, was announced on Sunday as the winner of the protracted election. Out of my military career, 6 of those years was spent in special operations, conducting airlift capability with our helicopters for special forces, Green Berets, Navy SEALs. That's what we did. That was our job. Take them in and let them go fight their battle. And then go supply them with beans and bullets and then retrieve them when it's over with, or rescue them if things are going south. And when this kind of stuff hits the news media, as this case, for instance, has, it's very disheartening because it puts lives on the line. And then it gets other people that have no business speaking about it. And I guarantee you, before my next show on Thursday night, Alihan Omar is going to tweet something, or she's going to speak out about this, just like she's done many times in the past, on record, referring to U.S. military forces and U.S. military veterans as the real terrorist. The whole Black Hawk Down incident. You haven't seen the movie Black Hawk Down? Go watch it. Yeah. To her, our American forces in that operation were the real terrorist. She's a sitting member of our Congress. You don't think this shit's going to blow up bigger in Dallas? It will. I'm sharing it with you because it's out there in the public now. I'm sharing it with you for a reason, and that is to let you know that this shouldn't be out there. The New York Times should have never done this piece. And then reporters shouldn't be going to the Pentagon asking questions about it. And then if they do, the Pentagon should say no comment. But that's not how we operate, is it? And it's not just this administration. Same shit happened when Trump was in office, my friends. Same shit happened when Trump was in office. And when Obama was in office. Hell, the same shit happened when Ronald Reagan was in office, for crying out loud. I know people that are dead today. as much as I praised Ronald Reagan and still do, I know people today that lost their lives because of Ronald Reagan's loose lips. That's a true statement, my friends. You don't talk about that shit. You let special operations do their thing. And you stay the fuck out of it. Now, the next thing I want to share with you all, something I've talked about in the past. I've talked about it on my show before. I've also talked about it in depth in several videos I've done. I've shared my own personal experiences in the military with this subject. And the thing that I think boggles my mind the most about it is that now that it's coming out as factual information, for the most part, Americans aren't paying any attention to it. Why? Because there's so many things fucked up right now that this is irrelevant to them. Okay? They're paying $5, $5.50, $6 out in California for gas. They can't find baby formula for their babies. There's tons and tons of fentanyl and illegal drugs pouring across our border with illegal aliens and MS-13 gang members, and angel families are growing weekly because of illegal aliens killing one of their loved ones. There's sex trafficking that's just run amok. There's so many hurtful and horrible things happening to we the people that when something like this is exposed and comes out, it goes right over everybody's head. So what am I talking about? What could it possibly be that nobody gives a shit about? Because things are so screwed up here in America. Here we go. There was an update to Congress today, a hearing, open door and closed door. Unclassified was the open door, classified the closed door to members of Congress by military officials heading the Pentagon's new UFO identification program. That's right, my friends. Flying saucers, little alien men from another planet, whatever the hell you want to call it. The public house hearing was billed as the first of the phenomena since the 1960s, and growing public interest over claims of military encounters with unexplained craft. But most of the objects the Pentagon has yet to explain are unknown simply due to a lack of enough information. Officials told the House Intelligence Committee panel it's insufficient data. That's one of the challenges we have, insufficient data, either on the event itself or the object itself, or insufficient data or plug in with some other organization or agency that many have had something in that space at that time, said Ronald Moultrie, the Undersecretary of Defense of Intelligence and Security, who currently leads the UFO program. So it's a data issue that we're facing in many of these incidents. UFO advocates backed by a bombshell New York Times story in 2017 that went right over everybody's head. Although you can go look through my videos and find me talking about it because I thought it was interesting as all could be. I mean, it was the facts. It was there. They had video of it. Not only did the pilots see it, but it was on their radar screen. And they were scrambled to intercept it because it was on the aircraft carrier's radar screen. Objects flying around our naval fleets that we couldn't identify, nor could we catch, because they were doing things that defy everything we know about aerodynamics. UFO advocates backed by the bombshell New York Times story in 2017 have pointed to accounts from some Navy fighter pilots and military videos depicting unknown objects as evidence the Pentagon faces an intelligence failure on a scale of Pearl Harbor and 9/11. Congress is now turning up the heat on the department and its investigations as interest grows. And guess what? It's bipartisan. That's right. Adam Schiff is leading the congressional investigation into this. He's a Democrat, my friends. Republican Andrew Carson, Democrat Indiana, who is the chairman of the House panel, said the military needs to convince the public that is now accepting of reporting UFO sightings and that military troops will be treated as witnesses and not cooks. Witnesses' accounts are pouring in, officials testified. A total of 400 reported incidences are being investigated by the Pentagon's Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group, or AOIMSG. The group was created last year as Congress passed a law requiring formal body in the Defense Department dedicated to probing what it calls unidentified aerial phenomena. So they're getting away from the word UFO because of the stigma. People go, oh, you're freaking crazy. All right, you're a lunatic. And that's been happening so much and for so long that pilots don't report this shit. Civilian pilots don't report it. They don't lose their license from the FAA thinking that they're a freaking nut job. Military pilots don't report it because they don't want to lose their career. Same thing with police officers and anybody in a professional position because of the stigma surrounding UFO. So they call it UAP, Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. Cases have ballooned from the 144 incidences from 2004 to 2021, citing an initial public report last summer of the objects, also ordered up by Congress, by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. That report arrived at a similar conclusion about the lack of data. During the hearing, lawmakers asked whether any of the objects were sending out unusual signals or apparent communication, and they said, we haven't detected any. Many of the new cases are actually older incidences that are just now being reported by military witnesses as the stigma of UFO sightings in the military is now easing. And the military has put out, so has the FAA, to pilots, it's okay. We're not going to take your license. We're not going to ground you if you do one of these reports that you saw something while you were flying that you couldn't identify. We want to know what it is. Not because we think it's going to be little green men from another planet, but because it's in our airspace and it's not supposed to be there without us knowing what it is. That's the most important part about this. We could have a plane crash and kill American forces. And it's not just our forces, as we found out in today's briefing. And by the way, let me just tell you this. In the description of this, when it becomes a video, when this live show's over with, in the description below, you will find a link where you can click on it and watch the entire press conference today. And I ask that you do that because I think it's very important. Went on to say, but it also means that older witnesses' accounts can lack additional evidence such as sensory data, information collected by the array of hardware used by the military to track and identify objects. That makes the job of investigating more difficult. The nighttime video of the triangle-shaped objects flying over the USS Russell was shot in 2019 in the Pacific and was leaked by UFO researchers last year who claimed it was among the best military UFO footage ever released. And that video is all over YouTube. It was taken with a camera through a night vision lens by a Navy crew. The Pentagon found a second night vision video shot elsewhere under similar circumstances and was then able to confirm the objects were believed to be drones that only appeared triangular due to the camera aperture. Explanations can still be hard to come by when video evidence is available. And they also showed in this hearing, and if you go watch this, like I'm asking you to, you'll see several videos. And one is this thing zipping right by the pilots going, what the hell was that? A circular type, singular or circular type object. The Pentagon showed lawmakers what appeared to be a new UFO video not previously released to the public. Video was shot by U.S. military pilots in the cockpit of a fighter jet and shows what appeared to be the spear-shaped object zipped by the plane. Object appears and disappears in a fraction of a second in the video. It moves so quickly that staff members at the hearing could not freeze the video at the right spot to show a still image of the object, despite repeated attempts. There's a lot of information like the video that we showed in which there's simply too little data to create a reasonable explanation, the briefer said. There's a small handful of cases in which we have more data, and our analysts simply haven't been able to fully pull together a picture of what has happened. So let's back up a second and let's talk about what we know from what happened in 2017 and 2009, and there's numerous other, and you can see them, they're right here on YouTube for you to go look at. You can listen to the pilots themselves talking to themselves about what the hell was that, okay? And in no time is anybody suggesting that these are from another planet and they're little alien green men or women or whatever. What they're saying is it's either a top secret military project that's above the knowledge of our normal military forces, or it's another country that has developed aerodynamic technology that suppresses, just leaps and bounds over everything we know currently about aerodynamics. Or it's from another world. It's really one of those three. Some of the things can be written off as drones, okay? Some of them can be written off as weather phenomena, okay? Many of them have been written off as, we know what that is. It's this or it's that. But some of the videos that are out there right now that you can see are mind-boggling, because the objects are doing things that drones can't do. And neither can military aircraft that we know of. For instance, in one of the videos that you can see right on YouTube, they're tracking an object. They took off from an aircraft carrier to go intercept this because it was coming around the fleet, and you can't do that. It's out in the Pacific. And it's on the ship's radar. It's on, when they got airborne in the fighter jets, it's on their radar. And then they got to where they could see it and track it with their gun cameras. And they're talking to each other going, what is that? And they're watching it do things that at least a human as we know it couldn't survive. The body would be torn apart in a million pieces. It would disintegrate because the objects go from hovering to 80,000 feet in 2 seconds, or vice versa. And some of the objects, as they're chasing them, disappear into the water, in the ocean, and then pop back up later. We don't know of any technology that can do this. And none of these show any sign of propulsion, which was one of the biggest things that they're talking about right now. What makes, whatever they are, what makes them operate? How is it possible for something to be flying around with no evidence of propulsion and then making turns and quick movements that are so fast that if somebody was controlling it inside of it, as what we know of a human body, it would disintegrate. So, to the military's knowledge and what the Pentagon's saying is that, look, we do have, and they mentioned that in this briefing today, and you can see it if you go watch it. Like I say, the link will be in this video after I put it up. They are in contact, this group, and it's a group of a bunch of very, very intelligent people. They brought together experts in weather, experts in space exploration, NASA, CIA, all these people that have way more knowledge than you and me, okay? To try and figure out what is it. Because look, if it's another country that has developed something like this, that can go spy on our military and nuclear facilities and escape in ways that are not known to us, then we've fallen behind the power curve. Just like we did, as he mentioned, Pearl Harbor and 9/11. Intelligence have failed if it's another country. They're also working with companies that work for the Pentagon, contractors that are developing aircraft, missiles, not just things that fly in the air, but things that go in the water too. We have a lot of contractors that are designing things that me and you won't know anything about for years. For instance, like the stealth fighter. All right. The stealth fighter was first known to the public in 1989 during Operation Just Cause in Panama. Was the first time anybody ever knew anything about this. Although there had been reports for years of this triangular shaped object flying around the deserts in Nevada. People thought they were UFOs, something from another planet. Pentagon wouldn't say anything about it. It was all hush hush. It was a top secret program. It was a fighter that could fly and not be detected by radar. And that's significant. It had been flying for like 8 years before it was ever released that it existed. Same thing with the B-2 stealth bomber. Okay. And so there are programs out there. There are companies that design and build things for our military that are highly, highly classified and top secret, which is one of the reasons why the whole Area 51 and Groom Lake was all, that's what it was all about. It was to have a place out in the middle of nowhere, basically, to test these things. All right. So they mentioned today in the briefing that yes, we are working with these contractors. When we get a report and we have video evidence of something, date and time and location and video of this object around our aircraft carriers or our planes or our nuclear bases or military bases or whatever, we can go to the contractors that we know work for us, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and so forth. Skunk Works, for instance, like that made the U-2 and the SR-71, and say, is this you? And that's all we need to know. Yes or no. And then we're going to leave it alone and move on to the next one. We don't need to know anything about it. Of course, you're not going to tell us anyhow. We don't need to know how it works. We don't need to know nothing about it. Just let us know if we're chasing the wrong dogtail. And they've agreed to do that. So far, there's over 100 objects that have been videoed and captured on numerous different, not just by the aircraft's radar, but the ship's radar and seen by the pilots themselves. Objects doing things that defy everything we know about aerodynamics. So if it's another country, we've got to know this. If it's us, we need to know about it so we don't keep chasing that. And the last thing here, and literally this is the last thing in this group of discussion, would be if it's from somewhere else out in our universe. I've always been one to say that we'd be kind of foolish knowing now how big our universe is, and then to find out, as we've determined through the years and telescopes and technology and the Hubble and so forth, that we're just one of hundreds of universes out there. To say that we're the only ones that have some form of life would be foolish. Not that they're going to be like us and breathe and eat and do what we do. I mean, who knows what they could be made out of. But the stigma for so long and for so many years have kept this under wraps. And one of the things that happened years and years ago was George Wells, the War of the Worlds. And if you go and you do your research on that, you'll see that when he did that radio announcement, many, many people committed suicide and went freaking batshit crazy. And when that happened, the Pentagon locked this shit down and went, we can't let this out to the public because we don't need people going nuts on us until we figure out what it is. He did say, he was asked point blank in today's briefing, do you have one of these objects? Or do you have some type of material that we don't know what it is? And this guy in charge of the program today said, we don't have it. Not that it doesn't exist, because we've heard all kinds of stories about what they do or don't have, and we may never know. But he made it clear that in their program, what they're doing, they're just trying to find out what these things are. But the thing that I find so amazing is all these videos coming out, credible witnesses, military pilots flying airlines, police officers, doctors, lawyers, you name it. Not Billy Bob Thornton, drinking whiskey, fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, telling a story. No, credible people sharing things that happened to them, things they witnessed, things they were able to photograph, things that were captured on radar. And the stigma has kept this so far in the back burner, and so many people have not been willing to come forward. So I think it's a very good thing that what they're doing is erasing that stigma and saying, listen to the pilots out there. We're not going to look at you as a cook. We're not going to look at you as somebody that's crazy. We're not going to ground you and take away your license. You're not going to get kicked out of the military or court-martialed. Share with us what you know so we can try and piece this together. Now, the only thing that's disheartening about what happened today, and like I say, if you watch it again, if you're just tuning in, it'll be in the link in this video when it comes up in a few hours or an hour from now. What was disheartening was there were a few congressmen that brought up some legitimate things that I thought this group should know and should have been able to brief them on, and they didn't. And that was things that have been reported already, that the military has reported on, that was witnessed by many, many people in the military, and they weren't investigating it. For instance, there was supposedly one of these objects that was hovering over a nuclear facility with our intercontinental ballistic missiles, and it shut down those missiles, took them offline, shut down all the power grids in the area. And all these service members were like, what the shit's that? Pointing at this thing. And then it was gone in a split second. So when asked, are you guys looking at that? They said, no, we're not, because we only have a limited amount of funds that you guys give us, and we can't go chasing all kinds of other stuff that's been reported on in the past, like, for instance, the Roswell incident. We can only focus on what's currently happening and what current military and civilian aviators are coming to us and sharing with us. That's what we're focused on. Personally, I think we need to give them more money and allow them to expand this, to go look at other known reports that are out there. And there's many of them that many people have written off as a bunch of crazy people running around talking about flying saucers. And again, nobody is saying these are from another planet with little green men on them. What we're saying is there's something out there, something's here in our airspace that shouldn't be. We're witnessing it, we're capturing it on video, we're capturing it on radar. It's not supposed to be there, and it's doing things that defy everything we know about aerodynamics. And we got to know what that is. We have to. It's either our top secret programs or it's another country that's developed technology that makes us literally look like we're in the Stone Age. And that's a scary thought. Or it's from somewhere else out there in space. Either way, more to come. They've agreed they're going to continue to brief Congress on this. We will know more as time goes on. What was disheartening was when they ended this briefing, then they went into a classified briefing to share with the Congress members things that we aren't allowed to know. And I thought, wow, okay, that just kind of like took the wind out of it. Okay, here you are admitting this shit exists, and now you're going to say, we can't tell you everything we know. Maybe in due time that'll change. But for right now, that's what it is, and that's what we have to live with. So that was very interesting. Again, it's going to be in the description of this video at the very bottom. Go check it out, watch that, and then go look at the other videos, the credible videos, not somebody that made some shit up and put it up on YouTube. No, look for the ones where military pilots talk about what they saw. All right, do a simple search and figure it out for yourself, whether you believe it or you don't believe it. Regardless, the Pentagon has been admitting it for quite some time now, and it's going right over everybody's heads. Although it's been reported by Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, they've all covered the UAP story, some more than others. And nobody is paying any attention to it because there's so much wrong in America today that they don't care. Let them land in our fucking front yard and ask us, if we want to come on board and go for a ride. They just don't care. The American public in general doesn't really care. And I think that's the most alarming part of this whole thing, is that if all this other shit wasn't going wrong, if we lived in a great country that had everything working right, we didn't have all these problems and issues, this shit would be, everybody would be talking about it. Everybody. Constantly, all day long. But it pops up, there's the story, and everybody in America is like, whatever. Except for some of us that actually find it intriguing. I mean, I'd like to know what it is. I'm sure many of you would like to know what it is too. Regardless of, if it's our technology, then just say it is and be done with it. And we don't need to know how it works. We don't need to know what makes it work. We don't need to know that stuff. Okay? Because we don't need that falling in our enemy's hands. But if our enemy has it, that's not good news. Anyway, had many places to be tonight, but chose to be here with me. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope that what I do enlightens you, I want to do more of sharing things with you that's a little different than what is all out there. Uh, and I have been doing that with other videos where I'm taking you around the museums and I'm showing you things that I'm able to go out and see, that I'm blessed and honored to have the ability to go look at and see. Uh, and I will continue to do that. There's a lot of different things that we're planning on doing and going and showing you besides just the news. But I will always continue to do my homework and do the best I can to bring you current information, no filters. If you've been following me for a while, you know that's for sure. Um, Political correctness is not in my vocabulary in any way, shape, or form, and I think that's the way it should be. And everybody else felt that way, I think we'd be a whole lot better along than we are right now. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, even those chasing UAPs and UFOs, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. And I believe more now than ever before, we need God's intervention. Thank you. God bless you. Hope you all have a wonderful night. And I'll see you on Thursday, God willing. Take care, everyone.